Okay, gas solves an awful lot of problems. Although it's great, why do we get rid of it? What's the problem with it? Is it?
It's killing us. It's the carbon dioxide
Yeah, but how's it killing us? Is carbon dioxide from burning
from burning gas.
the gas, right?
So you're burning the gas,
Yeah.
your carbon dioxide. So
Yeah.
I say, well, let's capture it. Why not?
Yeah.
It's a gas. We capture gases. We put them places. I mean, the Norwegians have been putting gas in the North Sea for a couple of decades, 25 years now. Small amounts. It might be like 1 million tons so far. But
Yeah.
they've been doing it.
Yeah.
There are plants in North America.
Yeah.
Let's do carbon capture. Why not?
It's magical engineering, that's why, because it's really difficult. First of all, you're talking about capturing a gas and then splitting a gas, which is quite stable, and taking the carbon out. And carbon has a weird property. It's quite an unusual element. There's no liquid phase of carbon, right? You can have carbon gas and you can have a solid carbon, but there's no liquid. And the liquid is a really good thing to do. So you compress carbon and it becomes solid.
Okay, but what's this relevant to carbon capture?
Well, how do you get hold of it and what do you do with it then? So do you leave the carbon attached to something else,
The oxygen.
like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and you physically pump that, compress that and store carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide?
I mean, that's what the UK government is saying. It's great. Let's spend 22 billion. Get on with it. No trouble.
Yeah, but it doesn't really work very well because it breaks down and it leaks and it's very difficult to do, very expensive, very energy intensive. We've been creating various gases in this room while we've been talking. How are you going to capture them all? I don't
know, suck them in and there's some kind of filter.
Yeah, but then you've got to put something else in the place, otherwise you get a vacuum. It's really complicated and
complicated being expensive.
Yeah, and quite difficult to do, and there are better alternatives.
Such as?
Renewable energy.
Yeah, okay.
You know, that's the crunch that comes down to it. You get to the point that when it starts costing you more than wind and solar and batteries, why would you do it? Now, to answer my own question a little bit there are one or two industries, like the production of glass and the production of steel and raw glass, are quite difficult to do without burning something like gas. It's quite difficult to get the temperatures. Fertilizer, yeah. Those, because they're not just heat, they're also chemical combinations that make things happen. The industries involved with them are struggling to do without gas, so we have to think about how we're going to do that. It might be that carbon capture and storage will be applicable to a particular process in a very limited area, but then where are you going to put it?
But okay, but that's kind of, it's niche, it's specific, it's on relatively high value products where you've got few other options to decarbonize them.
Yeah.
It's not kind of national scale, you want to be warm, so I'll just...
You're not going to have one in your granny's house attached to the back of her boiler. You can put filters in, chemical filters, which will absorb the carbon out of the gases that come out. But then what do you do with the filters? Now they're full, and the production of them and the disposal, and there's no end to the buttons. You keep pressing on the balloon and the other bit keeps inflating.
So the better option is electrify.
Yeah, as much as possible. There will probably for centuries hence still be processes where we will need to burn hydrocarbons.
But actually, it's a good point. We talked before about the advantages of gas, of moving it, and it's cheap and everything else. Electricity actually is better. Electricity is even easier to move because it just kind of does.
It's not as easy to store though.
It's not as
you can compress gas, and you can change the energy level of gas by compressing it and put more gas through.
Well, you can just hang on to it for some time. So
it's been around for like 600 million years or something, so it can probably be stored quite successfully over a length of time.
Whereas electricity, obviously, you've got to have batteries or compressed air storage or something.
And if you go around the big cities, you'll see that we used to store town gas in that way. The gasometers, there famously used to be one next to the Oval Cricket Ground that used to be
and there's now one at King's Cross that's an apartment block now.
So you can store gas more easily than electricity, or cheaper. You can store it cheaper.
Yeah, the other problem with gas is energy security, right? So we don't have as much as we used to. We're shutting down our own oil field. So it comes in by ship, which sort of everyone's happy. Oh, well, the ship turns up. Well, yeah, where does the ship come from? Everyone thinks maybe it comes from sort of magic place, no one knows. The reality is Qatar, I think, is number one for us. America coming up pretty fast, but it's
North
also
Africa, we also get...
Point I'm trying to make, it's an energy security problem. It's a national security problem.
We're too reliant. on it.
We've seen Russia.
Yeah.
We've seen what happened with Russia and Germany. Germany basically made a bargain in the 2010s of saying we will be able to compete with China because we've got cheap Russian gas.
Yeah.
And Putin saw this come and he was like, boys, this is great. We're going to have them absolutely, on the teat.
Yeah.
And we can do what we want. But it leads to enormous geopolitical pressure. And one of the huge advantages of renewable energy is that it's secure. Now, we don't manufacture any solar panels in the UK for all intents and purposes. They come from China. And people are like, well, you're dependent on China. China's going to, they can cut off the flow of solar panels. It's like, well, yeah, but the ones that are here,
exactly, they're still working.
They're going to work for 30 years.
Whereas if you cut off the supply of gas, you run out of gas very quickly. We have strategic reserves.
Strategic, tactical.
Yeah, well,
how many days?
They call them strategic. Probably 3 months.
Not even really.
It depends. There used to be a big hole in the ground that used to be run by Centrica, but the main strategic reserve used to be underground for the UK, and it was shut some time ago.
But we have, I think we have tens of days. It's not much. It might be like 20, 30 days of storage. The Germans do have a lot more. They've been building more, but it's a limited amount. Your point is, we need those ships to come in day after day. And again, where we are right now today, America is not looking like a reliable ally.
No.
They could shut it off on a whim.
And I think that the reality is the great advantage with renewables is they're delivered to you for free. All you have to do is catch them, right? You have to build equipment to catch it.
The energy is delivered, the wind, the solar.
The energy is delivered for free. And no one can cut it off. No one can make a political decision, with one or two exceptions. Mainly, the energy for the West has come from unstable regions of the planet, historically. I think the only energy independence is going to come from collecting the energy that's delivered for free to wherever you live and finding better ways of storing it.
And we saw that with the Ukraine war, gas prices went through the roof in 2022 and 23. And I saw a number recently that Europe as a whole saved $46 billion from using renewable energy versus importing gas in that period. And it's huge numbers. I've seen other numbers that 20 billion just the UK. I've not studied it in detail, but it's a lot of money. As you say, it can't be cut off. Maybe the only thing that could be is offshore wind, because you can go cut some cables.
But it becomes then your strategic assets, don't it? Your strategic infrastructure.
Yeah, it's an act of war to attack an offshore wind, infrastructure, whereas actually just kind of slowing down the gas is not.
Yeah. Well, I think you would find that it'd be quite difficult, for instance, if the West made a concerted effort to stop Russia exporting gas, it would stop exporting gas. Whereas if you did the same with a wind turbine or something, you build another wind turbine really quickly, because you know what I mean? It's not, you haven't got all your eggs in one basket. The whole of the infrastructure for renewables, one of the great things about it is it's dispersed across the whole country.
Yeah, it's very difficult to attack. But it's interesting. I wrote an article in my newsletter and put it on LinkedIn recently about the pressure that European politicians are under versus Russia. Right now we're recording in February 25, and it's a pretty nerve-wracking time. But gas prices have been building up massively over the last few months because Ukraine's no longer transiting gas. And it puts huge pressure on European politicians, because the price of gas is 8 times higher in Europe than it is in the United States. And the prospect of any form of peace with Russia, people expect the price of gas in Europe to drop by about half. Now, when you've got energy intensive industries across Europe being absolutely crushed, I think German production is down like 20% over the last 4 years. I think Austrian production is down by 9% like last year in 2024. There is a big prize in terms of economic activity and jobs in exports from having Russian gas flow again. And so it's a massive pressure on your country to be dependent on someone else. And renewable stops that.
It depends on your thinking, though, because if you do the numbers, Europe feels it's beholden to the US at the moment to sort all this out, because they can see it as an energy issue, like you say, because Germany and Austria especially need Russian gas, is militarily Europe is stronger than Russia. And now we're talking about a strategic resource by what we would consider to be an unstable country. And history seems to have not taught us any lessons in why are we doing this?
Well,
why are we...
Bismarck said the secret to good politics, referring to Germany, is a deal with Russia.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Russia has got leverage because of the gas supply, which it didn't have before. It was just like, hey, we're here, we're big, we'll invade you if we feel like it. Now it's like, well, we don't even need to invade you. We can decimate.
Just turn your gas
and it is
off.
decimating. It is 20%, double decimating the German economy because of the gas being cut off. Although, arguably, we cut it off ourselves. But, you know.
It's also the fact that, generally speaking, we don't ever seem to have a choice than to gather energy resources from unstable areas of the planet. Because, you know, if we don't get gas from Russia, where do we get gas from?
There's an expression, God, I can't remember. Is it called like the Dutch disease or something? Does that ring a bell?
Not
it's
to me.
to do with when countries get hold of huge amounts of wealth from their natural resources.
Mm-hmm.
And the history of it is it just destroys the country. It completely destroys governance. There's so much money flowing through, which doesn't require effort, industry, organization, governance, that actually the country suffers massively because of that. And I wonder, you know, we get energy from unstable areas of the world, but actually, do we, because we get energy from them, create unstable areas of the world? I don't know.